Marcel Chinchik, of course, our defending ESL R1 Spring champion. Let's talk a little bit about him. Let's talk about the season that he had in that spring, because boy, it came down to a dramatic final, but the road to get there was just as entertaining.
It absolutely was. We saw such drama back in Munich over the course of the regular season as well. He was absolutely fantastic. He was up there all of the time, finally taking that round win with the final one. But the consistency was really what it got him up there. And then day one in Munich is really what gave him so many points in the end. That's what got him so close to finalist mode. He was the driver with 100 points. Everybody else starting behind him at that stage. So yeah, it was a really great season from him. He thoroughly deserved it. But now he's really got to show that he deserved that, I guess, even more, because this is a different format slightly. It's a different situation. We haven't had the whole season beforehand, so it's you know, it's a little bit different in that respect.
And while Chinchik is having some run of form in the later stages of this final day, for James Baldwin, heartbreak, technical issues for him, dropped him down to 12th spot, excuse me.
Yeah, no points again for James Baldwin in a really good time of things at Munich. That's not been repeated here. As I said earlier on, I really thought that with this format he would really rise to the occasion, and unfortunately, as these things sometimes do, it just hasn't gone his way.
He has had a couple of top 5 finishes here, but the Mercedes maybe not being as strong as it was over in that spring major has definitely been a little bit of a tougher ride for him. Similar sort of story, by the way, for Kuba Brzezinski. We are going to have a chat, though, with James Baldwin, and so let's head it back to the stage and have a chat with the Mercedes AMG Petronas esports driver.
I'm James Baldwin, racing for the Mercedes AMG Petronas esports team, and I'm from United Kingdom. I won a competition 4 years ago called World's Fastest Gamer, so that's given me the World's Fastest Gamer title, and since then they've never run that competition again, so if they don't do it again, I'll always be the latest World's Fastest Gamer, so I'll take it. It's not a bad title to have. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it is what it is. In 2017, so 6 years ago, I was just walking in like a PC store, came across like a bundle of a wheel and pedals and a game, and bought it, gave it a go, never sim raced before ever, and really enjoyed it, just on the desk, you know, with a office chair type thing. Yeah, and then it just got sort of more serious over the years. Favorite track for me in this series is definitely Nürburgring, purely because like it just suits my driving style. Nürburgring's got a lot of history as well, with the Nordschleife being next to it and stuff like that. So yeah, Nürburgring, closely followed, I think, by Monza. I've always been a fan of Monza. Simulators and games now are getting more and more realistic. I think depending on what equipment you have, you can really get it extremely close to real life. I did sim racing before I went into real cars, and everything I learned in sim racing, you know, helped me in real life. Braking, overtaking, being consistent, all these things I learned on the sim. So I think that says, you know, a lot about how realistic they are. The future of sim racing, to be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, 5 years ago, it was a completely different sort of industry, you know. It was a lot smaller than it is now. I don't know, hopefully it gets to the level of, you know, your CSGOs and stuff, and filling out stadiums, and that'd be the dream. Whether that's possible or not, I don't know. But, you know, events like this really help you know, push the industry forward, so, yeah. It's annoying that I was so close to winning and it didn't happen, because you just don't know if you're going to be in that position again. Obviously, I come here aiming to win, and you know, you know, the goal is to win, but you just don't know if it's going to happen. So all you can do is put more hard work in, come ready to this event, you know, ready to win and stuff. And yeah, I mean, certainly I'll be trying to get the win at this event. You know, that would be the only way to sort of bounce back really from Munich. To be fair, with every car has slightly different performance. You know, some cars are quick on the straights, some quicker in the corners, some better on the brakes, whatever. So I think it's only fair to really compare yourself to someone in the same car. At this level, anyone can go and put it on pole, win a race. So I'm not ruling anyone out. But yeah, I think the main thing is focus on yourself. You know, if we sit there worrying about someone else, it's just not the right mindset. So yeah.
And now it comes down to the 14th race of our Drivers' Championship here in the ESL R1 sponsored by Aramco. It comes down to 3 drivers. Really good chat there with James Baldwin. Always appreciate the time that the drivers give us to give some insight into the behind-the-scenes world. Let's take a look at the driver standings very quickly just to update you on not just the drivers in finalist mode, but where they sit behind, where prize money is to be paid out as well. Beneka, like we said, did just enough to reach the 80-point threshold to join Rogers and Rietveld inside of finalist mode.
And just below that, Marcel Chinchik needs a top 7 to get into finalist mode for the next race, if there is one. So that really does change things up a little bit, because you've got that contrast between can he stop those from winning it here, and also you've got to make sure that you're in the top 7 if you're Marcel Chinchik as well. So interesting prospect for him over the course of the next race.
Yuri Toman, a bigger jump back there, and so ultimately if we do go to the next race, we're only looking at one more driver potentially able to join the 3 in finalist mode. Give a shout out to Dane Warren as well, able to jump himself up into 6. He was telling me before we came over to the venue to start the action today, he'd be content with 12th place and the $7,500.
Yeah, it's top 12 only that get monetary gain from this event, $7,500 for that 12th place. And so Dane Warren, yeah, you're just pleased to be in the final 12, and I think that is the case for some of these drivers, certainly.
Drivers are out there for practice, by the way. Their final opportunities to get ready to go for qualifying. There's Rietveld getting ready in the BMW. Let's also point out, we got 3 different manufacturers to talk about.
We certainly have. BMW, Porsche and Audi all involved, and they're very well matched as well in terms of where they are in terms of excuse me, in terms of the BOP here at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, and so we're going to have to hopefully see where qualifying stands them out, of course, as well. Let's take a look at some of those hero shots of our 3 finalists. Oh, I love the attitude that sometimes we get. We always say that drivers are relatively emotionless behind the rig. Well, we at least get them a bit out of their shell here.
We certainly do, and yeah, it's kind of, when you're alone, you're forced to pose and do things like that. I guess for Jeffrey Rietveld and Josh Rogers as well, he's a little bit more serious maybe in his shots here. But yeah, fantastic to see them all. They've had all a great week in terms of driving. This is the driver though that you'd maybe say deserves it most. Top 2 in all of the races leading up to the last one, and unfortunately didn't go his way at Monza last time around. But what about this time?
Yeah, for Max Beneka as well. I think in my mind, Rogers was the favourite coming into the day. Beneka's the favourite coming into this race. Of course, already grabbing the pole and the victory in race 2 of the day earlier on, and so gets his hands ready to go. Oh, there's a smile, a pump of the fist. Max is ready to rumble.
He certainly is, and yeah, a little bit less serious as well. Josh Rogers is very serious, isn't he, in those shots. Means business, and he certainly has done over the course of this event as well. It's race 6 here at the Nürburgring, and we could well see a winner here.
I'm going to start by throwing on the spot, not for the winner of the race, but who's going to grab the pole position. Ultimately, as we send them out staggered one by one, we will get the times in, and we're expecting them here at the Nürburgring to be around the 153s.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen this a lot over the course of these races. The last 4 pole sitters have taken the race win, so it could well be the case here again at the Nürburgring. It was really hard to overtake in the last race we had here. Let's not forget, there wasn't very much overtaking at all in race 2, which is when we were here for that. Yuri Toman made a couple of overtakes, but that was about it.
So, and as we go into qualifying, Kevin Siggy going out first. Ewan, you didn't actually answer the question about whether you have a prediction for qualifying or not.
I was hoping you wouldn't notice. But do I have a prediction for qualifying? I'm going to go for Max Beneka again, because he did it last time, so it seems I'm very bad at these obvious picks, aren't I?
You're going from the form book, which, to be fair, is the only thing you can really do, which is why I say Beneka's the favourite. But for Kevin Siggy, well, let's talk through the BMW and how he's going to challenge himself around the track. In through this now middle sector, the track starts to fall down the hill to its lowest point. Going to get all the way to the left-hand side, ride the AstroTurf and carry that momentum in towards 5th gear as you get into the braking zone. Spot that on the left and now hug the inside of the Dunlop hairpin.
And you rightly pointed out earlier on that you sort of drive this hairpin in a similar way to the way you do Bruxelles at Spa, only this corner pitches upwards on the exit of the turn rather than downwards as you do over in Belgium, through the very fast Schumacher S at the top of the hill there, sort of over the crest here at the Nürburgring, then into another chicane, which does provide an overtaking opportunity every now and again, but this last corner here is very, very important. This right-hander, you need the late-ish apex, a good run out of here, and good speed as well. Can't really afford to get into the gravel, and Kevin Siggy knows it.
think he was able to execute that quite well. He is trending into the 152.9s right now. Looks like a very tidy lap in that BMW for Team Redline and Kevin Siggy, but ultimately still that final sector to go. We've seen a couple of drivers slip up here, aiming for a 29.5 or so to get you below that 153 benchmark, and a benchmark that potentially would be good enough to secure you pole position. It's Kevin Siggy that runs his way to the line and punches in a 153.014, lost about a tenth in that final sector, and now we'll see if his teammate Rietveld can pip him.
And for once, Kevin Siggy's pleased. By the looks of it, he seemed all right there, and fit with a 53.0. He will have an important role to play here because Jeffrey Rietveld is in finalist mode for Team Redline. We saw the team play so important back in Munich. It will be once again here.
Rietveld is tracking to the 52s again, but it's the final sector where we saw Siggy slip up. Can Rietveld avoid that? The number 24 on the power and to the line, and it is going to be a 152, and it's a 152.878. What a lap time that is!
What a lap from Jeffrey Rietveld, and that really puts the pressure on not only Josh Rogers, but Max Benneker as well, because they're up next in the next three drivers. They have got to at least match that. They've got to get in front of Kevin Siggy here, otherwise it's going to be Jeffrey Rietveld all the way through this next race.
I think Josh Rogers is going even faster. Can the king of qualifying pip his way to the top? Finalist mode means this is so important. It's a 152.790.
Wow. A 52.7 from Josh Rogers, just when he needed it the most. He pulls out the magic. He pulls the cat out of the hat. Wow, that was unbelievable.
We are going to lose our voices by the end of this one. I have no doubt about that for Yuri Toman, currently tracking just above the 153s in that Audi. We know that Benneker was quick in the Audi, but definitely got the most out of the machine. For Toman, it's going to be into the 53s. It's a 53.045.
It's a good lap time, but it's still only fourth place from Yuri Toman, who must have ran over to the stage, by the way, because he was here like minutes ago. But anyway, he's fourth place at the moment, and now the pressure is on Max Benneker. He's seen what Rietveld and Rogers have done. If he stands any chance here, he has to qualify ahead of Kevin Siggy.
I think Rogers has put down an unbeatable lap. I think Benneker is about a tenth off as it stands right now. Is he going to be able to get in front of Rietveld, though? That will be the question. He runs his way to the line looking for the lap time, and it's only going to be third. He's a little bit unsure about that. Don't think he's too disappointed, though.
Well, if that's third behind those two, I think he'll be okay with that, because at least he's ahead of Kevin Siggy. The only problem he's going to have is the Team Redline driver hounding him on the early point of that race, and off the start especially. So let's see where the other 7 are, because while they are not in finalist mode, they do have an important role to play here. Can any of them get ahead and make this go on any longer?
Once again, it's a quarter of a second that splits the times on the board. Kevin Ellis Jr. runs to the line in the Apex Racing team, number 98. Can he find himself into the 52s like we've seen from 4 other drivers so far, excuse me? No, he cannot, unfortunately. It's down in 6, but Marcel Chinchik, a driver that will need to stop Rogers, Rietveld and Benneker from grabbing victories, heads to the line in qualifying.
He certainly will. This is an important lap for Marcel Chinchik at the moment. It's a slow middle sector, though, ever so slightly, I'm afraid. And he's gone down the order with this one. Over the line, it's going to be a 55.3 from Marcel Chinchik. That was wrong right from the very start, and it's 7th place for him.
Slow down in Sector 1, slow Sector 2 as well, and so Marcel Chinchik now hoping that someone else can challenge the 3 towards the front. James Baldwin, off the back of the frustrating race over at Monza, hopes to try and get some sort of result to probably sign off the championship with as we run right now. Pretty impressive in terms of the sector times in sectors 1 and 2, but it's only going to be a 53.1. He jumps behind Kevin Ellis Jr.
Now, teammates on the circuit. Dane Warren is out there, and Yuri Kasdorp will be last. Now, we know that Kevin Siggy has put himself right in the mix for Jeffrey Rietveld here. What about Warren and Kasdorp? What role will they have to play here in this race? With Warren in 2nd place, Porsche Coanda Esports would have a real stranglehold on this race.
We saw Warren qualify quite well. I had a chat with him 3 minutes ago or so, and he said that he's feeling rather good right now. He's been trying to not think about the championship or the points as they run, not able to get into the 52s, but able to get in front of Kevin Ellis Jr. and jump into the top 6. Yuri Kasdorp, you point out that he needs to qualify well. Well, unfortunately, he's had a really rough day so far.
Yeah, best result last time out was only 9th for Yuri Kasdorp. it would be a big performance for him to get up there again. Did qualify well actually in race 4 at Monza, but got caught up with Kevin Siggy, and so that dropped him a long way back as Kuba Brzezinski makes his way out of the final corner now for Williams, and that is going to be a 53.4 from him. He'll stay 9th.
Penultimate, but with Marcel Cinchic's slow down, he looks to be lining up at the tail end of the field. For Tommy Usgaard, a very impressive Sector 1, a slightly less impressive Sector 2, but still I think tracking around the Warrens, the Ellis Juniors in the mix. There's the look from multiple angles at Mr. Usgaard as he dives his way through the final corner. One driver, interestingly, not using gloves, but using the footwear. All the drivers have their different preferences and comfort zones. And for Usgaard, 29.7 in that final sector, 153.359, ends up behind James Baldwin.
Yeah, that's not where he's comfortable, unfortunately. And once again, just to be here inside the top 12 for Usgaard, I think is a good result. And so far, he's struggling a little bit. But as I say, pleased to be here. As he's already cast up, you'd imagine, still rooted to the bottom of the standings. See what he can do to help Max Benecker here.
So I think tidy lap so far from Yuri Kastov. Don't think he's going to be setting the time chart alight, but definitely not going to be behind Marcel Cinchic if he avoided a slowdown in the final sector. And with a 53.594, he will line up 11th. Benecker doesn't have any help. Warren not really close enough to Rogers to maybe help his teammate. But for Siggy and Rietveld, the red line duo maybe will be able to do something. The pump of the fist from Rogers. He knows just how important that pole position may be.
He knows that that was a fantastic lap time. To be fair, Jeffrey Rietveld was punching there as he crossed the line as well. He thought that was enough, but Josh Rogers was able to go that little bit faster.
Let's run you down through the starting grid for what might be the final race of our ESL R1, sponsored by Aramco Drivers' Championship. From the very back, Marcel Cinchic, our Spring Series champion, has it all to do to work his way forward. He'll be alongside with Yuri Kastov. Jakub Brzezinski and then Tommy Usgaard will line up inside of the front 5 rows, while James Baldwin and Kevin Less Jr. just in front of them. For Dane Warren and Yuri Toman, it will be interesting to see what they will do with the fight in front of them. Kevin Siggy trying to work with his teammate Jeffrey Rietveld on that inside row, with Max Benecker and Joshua Rogers, the rivals, lining up on that other row. 3 drivers in finalist mode and the 3 drivers at the front, but it's Rogers that grabs the ALG fastest qualifying lap of the session.
And possibly the most important one of the event as well. Josh Rogers with the pole position, with finalist mode activated, and of course that means that with the next race win, for any one of the drivers in finalist mode, they take the $100,000 home with them in the Drivers' Championship. It's a huge, huge race. Rogers and Rietveld, by the way, are tied on points going into this race. They've been at each other throughout this entire day. It could all come down to this.
We're on the back of 4 consecutive races in which pole position has been able to convert into a victory. There's no guarantee of that in this one, that is for sure.
Absolutely not. You just do not know what's going to happen here. We came into race 6 in Munich, the Nürburgring, let's not forget, and saw that Baldwin and Cinchic were 1 and 2. They were fighting for the win. We thought this is going to be over here, and all of a sudden drama struck, and you just do not know what is going to happen with this format because it is just so unpredictable.
Quick recap if you are just joining us for the first time. Finalist mode. Drivers have had the chance to build up points. They need 80 points to reach finalist mode, where 1 win will secure you the championship, and Josh Rogers was the first to reach finalist mode. Grabs maybe the most important of the ALG fastest qualifying laps to put himself at the front of this race number 6 of the day.
Absolutely. A real opportunity for Josh Rogers in one of the best lap times we've seen all day. That was supremely quick. And Josh Rogers, after dominating pretty much all day, the only race where he's had his hiccup was the last race at Monza in race 5 when he was in finalist mode. Things just didn't go well for him. Other than that, he's been absolutely flawless inside the top 2 every time.
If you're just joining us again, let us know who you think is going to come out on top here as we get ready to go for another 15 minutes of racing. Benecker not on pole. It's Rogers able to pip him. Rietveld's in the mix. He's got some teammates to work with. Ultimately, so many different ways this race could play out. It's time to put you on the spot, though. Oh. Who's our champion? Will we get a champion?
Yeah, I think we will. I think Josh Rogers is going to be the one as well. You saw the lap that he put in there. You've seen how strong he's been so far. Not only this season, but also in this particular event as well. He is the one to beat, in my opinion. Jeffrey Rieveld's going to be there, of course, and if Kevin Siggy can get involved, then you just never know. But Josh Rogers is the favourite for me.
The warm-up comes to a close and the drivers get ready to go to the starting grid. That's what they're fighting for, the trophy and their share of $400,000. Engines roar in symphony. Are we ready to crown our ESL R1 sponsored by Aramco Drivers Champion? Let's find out at the Nürburgring. In towards turn number 1, Rogers immediately covers off the move from Jeffrey Rietveld. Down the hill they will go. Benecke with the outside line and watching as Siggy tries to dive to his inside. Rogers goes wide and Rietveld has the lead.
Oh, it's very close as Josh Rogers tries to head himself down the inside. He slides a little bit through turn 2 as well. He'll look up the inside of turn 3. There's a move there. There's not quite the space though. Jeffrey Rieveld's in the lead.
Behind, Benecke able to hold on momentarily, but Siggy trying to force him out wide. Rietveld takes the point, and maybe at the most important time of the race, now he can control. He can set the tempo of the race. The top 3 on finalist modes all still running 1, 2, and 3.
Mike Benecke there was very, very aggressive with Kevin Siggy, and he absolutely has to be as well to win this race. Josh Rogers though with a mistake. He's driven absolutely flawlessly all throughout today, but that was an error late on the brakes in towards turn 1. He's allowed Rietveld through, but he's been so quick at this circuit, of course. Rietveld is not bad either, but Rogers was the one who sort of was driving within himself back in race 2 when he was behind Max Benecke. Now he's got the chance to go through. The 3 in finalist mode are 1, 2, 3 at the moment.
And you've got to wonder if for Rogers, with 8 laps of sitting behind Benecke and being unable to find a way through, if the fact that it's a BMW up the road will maybe give him a little bit more optimism. All 3 of the front runners push themselves a little bit wide, and look at Benecke looking like he's dropping a little bit back into that NGK chicane.
Absolutely, everybody just together at the moment. It's one long line from first down to 12th. The pressure on Jeffrey Rietveld at the moment is substantial. His teammate not really close enough to help him, and Josh Rogers with still 7 attempts at making this move.
So 1 lap will come to a close, and realistically, we're just focusing on 1, 2, and 3, the drivers with a chance of walking away with $100,000. Rietveld goes defensive. Rogers forced to look the long way around, and after being compromised a lap ago, he's going to be brave, he's going to be bold. Inside line now for Rogers as they work their way up in towards turn number 2, but we saw Kevin Siggy being able to hold the outside line a couple of races ago. Now it's on Jeffrey Rietveld to do so, but Rogers not going to let him do so.
Rietveld will have the inside for 4, Willie. He'll try, but he won't quite get there. They'll both slide, and Max Benecke's going to have a real good run. Josh Rogers gone. Rietveld spins Rogers around, and Max Benecke leads the race.
So Benecke takes the point after swooping through the drama, and that's Rogers done and dusted. It comes down now to just Benecke and Rietveld. Is race control going to have something to say as well?
Wow. That is huge drama. Will Jeffrey Rietveld be penalised for that as Josh Rogers sees his luck just snatched away from him right at the end again? In finalist mode again. He's down in 12th place, hoping this goes to another race.
You cannot imagine the dejectment, the disappointment that Josh Rogers must be feeling right now. He's going to try and finish this race, you have no doubt about that, but now look towards the front where Rietveld's protected by Siggy. Race control, yes, will have their say. If they think that's penalty worthy, Max Benecke is going to be 6 laps away from the championship.
The only thing that will prevent it is Kevin Siggy getting involved, and that is still possible. But Benecke with the lead right now is looking supreme. He was really quick at the front of race 2, let's not forget. As soon as he held on to that lead from his pole position, he was away and not really under any pressure either. He's arguably the fastest driver around this circuit at the moment, and this has got to come full circle for Max Benecke at the moment. He won round 1 back in Katowice, of course. It really put his foot on the table and said, I'm here to win this title. It didn't happen for him in the spring season, didn't have a good LAN event back in Munich, but he's having a good one here, and he's in the lead of this race.
End of lap number 1. Well, lap number 2 really, but lap number 1 after Rogers has gone. It is still half a second between the top 2. The Audi's stronger here, we believe, than the BMW, and the BMW will work through its tires a little bit more. Not necessarily the most compliant on the 4 contact patches onto the ground. In through that opening sector, Benecke starts to stretch the gap. 7 tenths and building.
It certainly is, and this is further back with the likes of Marcel Chinchik, who really needs positions at the moment. He needs a top 7 to get into finalist mode, by the way. Another 3 places needed to give us 4 into the next race, if we have one. 7 tenths of a second for Benecke at the moment. It's looking difficult to catch him, but this is still a long race.
In through the middle sector, we are on board with Marcel Chinchik behind Kevin Ellis Jr. At this 10th position for our spring major champion, watching on as they fight up towards the front. ultimately not firing off the best on this most important day of competition. Left himself with some work to do, and 2 consecutive victories not going to be enough for Marcel Cinchik to be able to raise himself into the finalist conversation. There are the BMWs for Team Redline though. That run line astern, Yuri Toman and then Tommy Oscar tucked in behind. Job's pretty simple for Kevin Siggy here. Don't go anywhere, stay in third.
It is for now, but if Rietveld got a penalty and can't win anyway, then he's going to need to overtake Benneker here, but obviously we need the help of Rietveld. And look at the gap that Max Benneker's got now, 9/10 of a second. It is stretching with every lap, 3 laps almost complete, and there's not a lot that the others can do.
That is a ominous shot fired across the bow for the rest of the competitors. There's Dane Warren trying to get the up and under potentially on Jakub Brzezinski into the final hairpin. Not necessarily a passing opportunity that many would like to take, but Dane Warren trying to work his way forward and get up into the top 5 in the championship and get that share of $400,000. It's 1.2 at the front though. We end lap number 3, but Necker still continues to pull away, and that's Dane Warren pulling to the side, trying to go defensive.
And Brzezinski straight through without any argument there, although very late on the brakes for Warren. He will be behind Brzezinski here, you'd imagine, and Kevin Ellis Jr. will try and get involved now as well towards turn 2. Through the Mercedes arena they'll go. Ellis Jr. not quite alongside, going down towards turn 3. Well, maybe he is in fact. Bit of contact between them, and Warren will hold on for now.
Just to clarify, Brzezinski was in front. Warren went defensive to cover off Kevin Ellis Jr., and you can see it worked out relatively well for him. But Ellis Jr. once again pokes to the inside and towards turn number 5. Porsche slams the door shut on him. We look rearwards from Brzezinski as they continue to get separated from those top 6 drivers. Second through 6th, excuse me, riding in a line. 7th through 12th as well, almost effectively in a line as Josh Rogers tries to close. But the breakaway continues to build at the front for Max Benneker. Let's take a look though at that moment, and it all begun into turn 1.
Well, this is going to be an important replay to watch now. Josh Rogers headed to the outside. Rietveld was aggressive with him out of turn 1. This was all fine. Space was given there, that's all okay. Inside line for Josh Rogers through 2 and then 3, and turn 4 was there where things got a bit more aggressive.
So on the previous lap, didn't we see Rogers try a very aggressive send on Rietveld, and maybe that was a bit of a favour returned as well. Rogers is off the track, yes, but running the racing line, and Rietveld does run into the right rear quarter panel. Look on board from Benneker, not just to get a perspective of the incident in front, but to see how the Miles driver took the lead.
Yeah, I think Rietveld is at fault here, I'm afraid. Through turn 4, he takes the normal racing line with the driver alongside him, and that has spun Josh Rogers around, in my opinion. So let's see his facial expression here. Well, there is none, basically. Oh, no, he's got he feels as if he was aggrieved there.
I think he's also a little bit frustrated knowing that the championship went away potentially there for Rogers. Well, we saw in the hype shots that he kept himself cool, calm and collected, and once again not showing too much emotion. That is the training that Porsche Coanda have been able to build to their drivers. They have such a level of professionalism. Even though Rogers is frustrated, what can he do?
A real heartbreaking shot to watch there. A look of helplessness on his face, really, as if, you know, things just not going his way. And the worst part is he was competing for $100,000 there. He's dropped down to 3rd now after leading pretty much all day. He's going to drop down to 3rd now. That's almost half of the money that you get for winning here. So yeah, he'll be so disappointed, Josh Rogers, and really deserved more from this.
And in some ways for Josh Rogers, it feels like unfinished business in ESL R1. Has shown so much potential, is by far being the most consistent of those Porsche Coanda esports drivers, but back in Munich wasn't to be, and not to be here today either. Kevin Ellis Jr. bumps into the back of Jakub Brzezinski as they work through that Dunlop hairpin. Dane Warren was able to get in front of the Mercedes AMG Williams esports driver, and he now looks to pull away.
Absolutely. This is where the battling really is. From 7th place on backwards, it doesn't really matter too much for the overall, but it does for individual positions. It's still very close. From about 5th place on backwards, they're still all miles away from reaching finalist mode. Doesn't look like they're going to get there here today, but they are very close in terms of the championship, so those points will matter back there.
So let's talk about one storyline that I think we were a little bit intrigued about how it was going to go. We had 48 drivers enter. 8 of them had never competed in this ESL R1 competition. None of them made it through to the finals.
Yeah, I don't think that's too much of a surprise, given the other drivers will have been practicing pretty much the entire time. They're all full season drivers, the 40 of them. So yeah, it's a not surprise to me, I've got to be honest, but we'll see how they get on in the teams tomorrow, because after all, they'll need to play their part, those rookie drivers, in helping their teams to make it to the second day of that championship.
Ajembo Lukbasi, I think, going to be the best rookie in the Drivers' Championship, 22nd. And for someone that thought he would be running right towards the back, I think he's going to be quite happy to be up there in the mix at the very least. We're on lap 6 of 8. A little less tense of a race than I think we expected. Although, having said that, it was tense for the first 3 laps.
It was, and drama as well. What is it about this format and this track that produces so much drama? It was James Baldwin and Marcel Chinchik last time around. This time, it was Jeffrey Rietveld and Josh Rogers. And as I say, I wouldn't be surprised to see Jeffrey Rietveld with a fairly hefty penalty after that one. So much so, actually, that he could even drop behind Rogers. We'll see who finishes second.
You say it produces dramatic racing. Remember the first race that we had here?
Well, yeah, I mean, in finalist mode,
okay.
not in normal regular
sure.
racing, because, yeah, that certainly wasn't particularly dramorous, if that's a word.
We'll go back to another thing that we kind of touched on, the difference between the major and this. The drivers going into day 2 of the major had their points scaled linearly to the driver with the most points at the end of day number 1, and the driver that had the most points had 100, only had to get 60 to reach finalist mode. Everyone reset to 0. Everyone had to get to 80 in the same number of races.
Yeah, and it made the start of today really important in terms of getting off to those points, just ticking them away, and that's what Josh Rogers did so well. That's how he managed to get into finalist mode on his own. The fact that he didn't finish below the top 2 for the first 4 races, and that was absolutely fantastic for him. Allowed him to get into finalist mode very, very quickly. Unfortunately, it's going to have come to nothing by the end of today.
So 2.2, that margin at the front, it just continues to build, it continues to grow for Max Benneker. We still have yet to hear from race control as to the status of a potential penalty going the way of Jeffrey Rietveld, but ultimately the margin continues to grow. 2 laps to go for a champion potentially to be crowned. Now look though for Yuri Toman, he wants to try and get past Kevin Siggy. He's not done with his fighting.
He was the one to really kick off the action in the race 2 race. So we'll see if we can do this again. Very close to Kevin Siggy in towards turn 3. He'll want to get close to Jeffrey Rietveld by the end of this race as well.
10-second penalty is going to come down to Jeffrey Rietveld, and so that is going to drop him well and truly out of contention. And you had said for Kevin Siggy that maybe his job was going to be to try and close to Benneker and to try and make sure that a final race would still potentially yet to come. Wasn't to play out that way.
Yeah, and on that penalty for Jeffrey Rietveld, I do agree that he was at fault for that one, and 10 seconds seems like the right one for me. Josh Rogers now has the case of trying to catch up, get within 10 seconds of Jeffrey Rietveld. That's way too much maths on that screen for me to be able to manage here, so I'm not sure whether he's going to be able to do that just yet, but they were tied on points going into this race, by the way, those two, so they are fighting for second in the championship.
Yeah, and again, remember, we have $400,000 being paid out in this Drivers' Championship. The 12th place driver in points is going to walk away with $7,500. Not a bad prize payout, all things considered. There's that confirmation, by the way, for the penalty for Rietveld. He's going to try and stretch his legs and maybe grow that buffer a little bit to Kevin Siggy as we wind our way onto the very final lap of our ESL R1 sponsored by Aramco Drivers' Championship. It's Max Benneker that's just got to survive one more trip around the Nürburgring to be crowned our champion.
Absolutely, he's got 2.5 seconds to Jeffrey Rietveld, who we're on board with. Needs to chase him down and needs to hope for a mistake from Max Benneker at this point. He needs that position, but at the moment it's not going to happen. Finalist mode, meaning of course that with one race win, you have won the $100,000, and at the moment Max Benneker is the one to take those that prize.
Look at them stack on up through turn number 1, a little bit further back, but still just riding clear. Is that number 71 for Miles? We've got the potential for the likes of Dane Warren, who's finally closed up to the back of James Baldwin to try and stick something. We keep talking about tyre wear and preservation in a 15-minute race. It's because, especially in that Mercedes, uses the fronts more than the rears, and Baldwin will be hoping to hold on to 6th place with half a lap or so to go.
He will. It's very close for those positions further back, by the way. I know Max Benneker is really driving on his own, but for everyone else, it is certainly fighting a lot. Yuri Kastorp has got another track limit penalty, I'm afraid. That's a pretty disappointing day for him, but he's still got $7,500.
And I guess tomorrow, the fight for the team championship will pick on up. And when it comes to Miles, at the start of the year, I think we looked at the squad of Max Benneker, Moritz Lohner, Patrick Holtzman, Yuri Kastorp, and thought, well, that was going to be one of the strongest squads. Benneker delivered immediately in round 1. We haven't always seen Miles up towards the top, though. are things finally starting to come good?
Yeah, Beneke really tailed off at the day one in Munich. Maybe a little bit concerned about what he was going to be like here in Riyadh as well. But he's shown that he's been more up to the challenge. He's already shaking his head, maybe realising just the achievement he is about to accomplish with more than 3 seconds to his advantage.
It's been an incredible 2 days of racing. The drivers flew out here to the heart of Riyadh knowing $1 million would be paid out, $400,000 just in the Drivers' Championship. For Max Beneke, he started ESL R1 so strongly, winning, and now finally gets the success that he deserves. Max Beneke is your ESL R1 sponsored by Aramco, Drivers' Champion, $100,000 richer.
Cool as you like from Max Beneke. Barely a celebration, held his head in his hands. He can't quite believe it. $100,000 is his. And at the top of sim racing for just so long, he's come full circle in ESL R1, winning the opening round. And now he wins in Riyadh as well.
He has been at the top of sim racing for so many years, but on occasion it seems like sometimes those big titles slip away from him. Not this one, and not the prize money. Oh, there's a big hug from Yuri Kastok. The team manager will get in on the celebrations as well. Fireworks continue to go off. We will get ready to go to our trophy ceremony to hand off Max Beneke to our wonderful stage host in a couple of moments' time. But as we get ready to do that, Ewan, let's just reflect on 14 fantastic races. And now we get the team championship to go as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, whether you're at home or in the Gamers8 arena, make some noise for your ESL R1 at Gamers8 Drivers Champion, Max Beneke!
الحضور بطل ESL R1 للسائقين الأفراد اللي موجودين معنا. عطونا تحية لماكس بنكي.
Let's go! Max. What a final race. Just try to put into words how you're feeling right now.
I mean, after qualifying, obviously saw both of them in front of me, so that was a difficult one. But I knew we were going to fight, right? So I knew it's coming down to the race. So I just tried to see what's happening, and when they crash, obviously, that's when I take the chance. And then from then on, it's just tunnel mode and doing my best what I can.
فعلا ماكس قدر يحقق الانتصار وسألناه كيف كان شعوره. قال بكل صراحة أنه جدا سعيد على تحقيقه الانتصار، وفي نفس الوقت أنه حتى برضو يوم شاف الاثنين اللي كانوا معه برضو متسابقين قدامه فكانت الفرصة جدا صعبة، بس أول ما صارت الحادثة استغلها بكامل الإمكانيات اللي عنده وأخذ الأفضلية له وقدر يحقق النصر ويحقق اللقب في هذه البطولة.
Max, if I told you earlier this week that this weekend you're going to become the ESL R1 at Gamers8 champion, well, the Drivers Champion, would you have believed me if I told you you'd have won it at Nürburgring?
Not really. I mean, I knew my pace is good. I improved a lot, I think, in the last couple of weeks. But obviously, winning, you know, it comes down to so many like small details. So you need to be there every single qualifying. I think I had good qualifyings every single time around, so I'm quite happy with that. And I think in the end, also Jeffrey and especially Josh deserved this as well. Just unlucky with that incident. I guess that's racing, and I just hope we have more of these events, and then one of them will win, sure.
صحيح أن ماكس قدر يحقق الانتصار في هذا السباق، لكن لو سألناه قبل تبدأ البطولة هل كنت تتوقع أنك تفوز في هذا السباق خصوصا في هذا المضمار؟ قال بكل صراحة ما كان يقدر أنه يتوقع الفوز في هذا المضمار تحديدا. في نفس الوقت شكر منافسينا خصوصا جوش وجيفري على منافستهم وعلى تواجدهم، كانوا من جد حتى برضو أنهم يستحقون الفوز، لكن الفوز صار لصالحك يا ماكس الحين من جد، فألف مبروك.
It's heavy, isn't it? Heavier than you think. Just finally, I just want to give you the opportunity. I just want to give you the opportunity to say something, to the people who've been supporting you, your fans, your family, your team. What would you like to say to them who've supported you throughout this, entire competition?
I mean, just the usual, right? Just want to thank everyone who has been part of that, especially like Maus, who took me into a new team, doing this amazing stuff here, obviously already with the first win in Katowice, right? So everything has been going pretty well from there. And everybody else, family, friends, my girlfriend, it's just the usual. But I'm not the kind of guy who's like going into these details, but people know it.
صحيح ان سالنا في سؤال اخير ايش حاب تقول لكل الاشخاص حتى المتابعين او حتى برضو الداعمين لك قال حاب يشكرهم جميعا بلا استثناء او حتى برضو فريقه اللي قدر انه يوصل للمكان الحالي فجدا سعيد بتواجدهم ودعمهم والف مبروك مره ثانيه ماكس تحقيقك اللقب.
Well, congratulations once again. You got the lion's share of $400,000. You got the Gamers8 trophy, and you are cemented in the history books as the first inaugural champion, drivers champion of ESL R1 at Gamers8. Congratulations once again, everyone in the Gamers8 arena. Can you make some noise one more time for Max Beneke? And with that being said, we're going to head back over to the desk. But for now, thank you so much to all of the racers, all of the talent, and of course, all of the production for all of your hard work. You've been absolutely incredible for the past 2 days. And don't forget, we've got the team championship starting tomorrow. The hard work is not yet done. So let's send it back to the desk to round out the day.
بالضبط بعد ما عرفنا الفائز الحين في هذا السباق مشوارنا لسه ما خلص باقي لنا السباق الجاي اللي راح نعرف فيها منهم ابطال من الفرق المشاركين معنا سباقاتنا مستمره ما زلنا والحماس موجود هنا معنا والمتسابقين ما زالوا متواجدين معنا خلينا ننتقل على الاستديو نشوف تفاصيل هذه السباقات كيف كانت معنا ونرجع لكم في السباقات الجايه